What's up everyone, it's Endymion, and somehow Starfield keeps finding ways to inch its way into the public news space, and if you're like me, you're probably a little sick of Starfield. From the pronouns nonsense to it being easily Bethesda's worst game in years, the saga of Starfield is like an onion. And by peeling this metaphorical onion, the layers expose a game full of bad design decisions done on purpose, like having tons of loading screens and a complete rejection of the player experience. Honestly, I think it's my responsibility to keep industries like video games or movies accountable for when they push garbage onto consumers. So until Starfield's entire myriad of false promises are exposed and chronicled, I will be here in the trenches. And in this video, there's quite a bit of nonsense to go over, and by the end, you'll see just how Starfield is a massive game designed to waste your time, and how Bethesda manipulates players to benefit them, all while using corporate speak to hide their true intentions. This is how Starfield is pushing the creative medium backwards, and why this sort of thing cannot be normalized going forward. It's a lot, so let's get started. To begin, let's look at a weird accusation, which is that Starfield's iconic cover art is allegedly not even Bethesda's original design, but a ripoff. Fans have been sharing this comparison to Starfield's cover art and an Indian film called Mission Mangal. At first, people thought it was just a coincidence, but it turns out Mission Mangal came out in 2019, and Starfield's first official promo art didn't get revealed until 2021. While, of course, Bethesda would never openly admit to copying this, it's hilarious how blatantly similar they are. In a lot of ways, Mission Mangal's poster is pretty generic, so maybe this is just an example to show how Starfield's vision is equally just as painfully boring and dull, that it's unfortunately on par for the course in terms of modern-day Bethesda. Another weird development is that popular YouTuber NakeyJakey has voiced his opinions on Starfield recently too. And while many look to defend the game from its problems aplenty, NakeyJakey is having none of it. He said on Twitter, and I quote, "25 hours in, and exploration in Starfield is utterly dreadful. You land on a planet, it generates a bunch of locations, most of them like 400 meters away if not more, and you walk. There is no ship to fly, there is no rover to drive, there's not even a space horse to mount to keep traveling engaging. You mindlessly sprint and boost jump through a soulless field of nothing to reach a copy and pasted destination that very rarely feels worth the effort. This is such a drastic step back from the amazing sense of exploration and wonder that Skyrim and Fallout inspired that it truly baffles me. I want to like this game so bad." End quote. The removal of land-based vehicles has been a popular topic amid Starfield's glaring problems, but it's also something that doesn't make a whole lot of sense at first glance. We even have Eurogamer, who recently released this article titled "Starfield's lack of ground vehicles is a deliberate choice, Bethesda says. It's something we consider." With Bethesda's Todd Howard claiming the removal of land vehicles leads the game to be a more authored experience. Todd Howard went on to say,
Consider, we're going to do outer space, we're going to do planets. Yeah. Once you do vehicles, it does change the gameplay. So by focusing, once you land in your ship, that you're on foot, it lets us really, for the players, make it an experience where we know how fast they're seeing things. In one sense, you do have...
So it's a rendering reason. Understood. It's because of rendering, guys. As a player, I think that we want vehicles. From their perspective, I would tell them, please do not do vehicles. It will only hurt the game because people will see how small the areas are.
But this explanation is a nothing statement, as Starfield's omission of land vehicles only makes sense if the game was an open world. In basically any open world game, there almost always has to be some convenient way to travel through its world. Whether it's riding your horse through the lands of Velen and Witcher, or grapple hook swinging through the air as Spider-Man, the very concept of an open world demands effective ways of traveling. In Starfield's case, Bethesda genuinely thought to themselves, what if we took a game like Spider-Man and removed the web slinging? And had Spider-Man just jump and run everywhere across New York City? Wouldn't that be fun? It's such a bizarre design choice, but as I've said before, my only way of justifying this very blatant genre standard omission is simply to increase player engagement because it's on Game Pass. Just how games like Diablo 4 increased how long it takes to delete things, travel, and so on, as well as omitting easier ways to manage your inventory, it's all done on purpose. None of these decisions could be made by a team of hundreds of developers with millions in their budgets, and not a single one of them wouldn't have noticed how these changes were absolutely anti-consumer. I know sometimes we like to say devs can't be that stupid when it comes to obvious misses like this, and I agree. These changes are being done deliberately because of the absolute state of modern gaming today. I refuse to believe hundreds of professional game devs lack this amount of insight into what players want. It just can't be true. Or I hope not anyway. For example, Skyrim and Fallout were games made before the concept of something like Game Pass. And the way those games are designed prove this. Fallout also doesn't have any vehicles. But it makes sense since Fallout's world is far more cluttered with smaller streets and is designed to be that way. In Fallout, the entire point of the game is being this lone wanderer, traversing a hostile environment. As you climb through empty houses and find what lies beyond the next street corner. Having a car in Fallout wouldn't make any sense since it is the apocalypse after all and most people don't even have enough water to survive. I mean, the concept of water is literally Fallout 3's entire main plot objective. Plus, if we're being real, Fallout 3 and 4's maps are more quality than quantity most of the time. Having a vehicle would make the maps feel very small, so it makes sense. Skyrim is far more open, and with huge fields and multiple cities scattered across its landscapes, it makes sense to allow the player to ride a horse, much like The Witcher does too. But with Starfield, none of these arguments work, since humanity has the means to make vehicles like ships without any trouble. At the very least, Starfield could have given you a space hover bike or something like Sparrows in Destiny. But it's just another example of modern day games removing core features that were present in their games before. Sort of like how some massive multiplayer shooter games like Battlefield somehow keep launching without things like scoreboards. It's so bizarre and it just shows a lack of quality care. But this is nothing new of Xbox and Microsoft either, just look at Halo and 343 Industries. They promised split-screen co-op years before Halo Infinite was even released. But suddenly something that was a series staple and in every previous game was now gone. But of course, like always, even if scoreboards and split screens suddenly cease to exist, the overpriced microtransaction shop is filled to the brim with cosmetics, and it's funny how that online shop always works at release, even when the actual games attached to them usually don't. It just shows this blatantly eye-rolling shift in how video games are made these days. A lot of the time, it seems these big AAA games are being designed not to be player-friendly on purpose. The only reason split-screen co-op doesn't exist in Halo Infinite is because Microsoft probably looked at its implementation and went, why would we let another person play the game with someone on their account for free? That won't drive up our player engagement numbers. But if that other person who would have played Halo Infinite for free without having their own account was forced to buy an Xbox and subscribe to Game Pass, then we could double our engagement numbers and force potential players into a FOMO situation, or fear of missing out, and we can make more money. There's no reason that honestly makes sense for these changes. Skyrim and classic Fallout were complete experiences because back in the day, that was what was expected from publishers. You had to release a feature-complete game in order to justify players buying your product. But once the implementation and normalization of microtransactions and always online patch it later BS became the norm, now many games have become less like video games and have transformed into grindy, pointless, nothing experiences that only exist to renew subscriptions, inflate analytic numbers, and meet quotas. What I'm trying to say here, and God was this a long rant that started about land vehicles, but Starfield is evident proof that the creative forward-thinking vision of Bethesda as a developer has been lost amidst the pathetic excuse of the expectations of the platform and limitations set by Microsoft.
It's such a good game.
Just look at this article from The Gamer titled, "I will never forgive Bethesda for Starfield's maps." I just want to show you how the absolute state of modern gaming today is in the dumps. So in this article, the author, Tessa Core, has a quest to get an NPC a cup of coffee. Keep that in mind. A simple cup of coffee. Okay, and I quote, "I like to clear my little shopping list of quests before it gets too long and overwhelming to handle, and with a game as big as Starfield, I'm likely to find myself completely overrun with errands for strangers within hours. One of the things I wanted to do was give a sweet, upbeat janitor a cup of coffee to make her day a little easier. This simple errand turned out to be a whole damn odyssey. It's not like there's a ton of work to put into the quest. She wants a cappuccino from the nearby cafe. So you just need to go and buy one and bring it back to her. The problem is getting there. I play games, obviously, so my first instinct is to open the map of the city and mark the location I need to get to. So I press the button and open the map, only to find a sea of white dots on a blue background. There is no indication of landmarks, only icons indicating districts. The dots vaguely indicate topography and not a single other thing that could help me. I don't know where the cafe is, so I wander around the district for a while until I figure out the cafe isn't there. It's probably in the commercial district, however the map doesn't indicate how to get between districts on foot. Which means I start wandering off in what I assume is the correct general direction. That means jumping into ponds and climbing obstacles in my way instead of taking a normal walkable civil path because Starfield apparently doesn't want me to know where those are either. I remember the scanner exists and that I can use it to locate landmarks like my ship and fast travel to it. Maybe I can find my objective in the distance and know I'm on the right track, I think. No such luck. I can see the icons indicating the direction of each district, and that's it. I wander and wander, eventually I realize I'm going in circles after seeing the same signposts a couple of times. I don't remember where the NAT, the high-speed rail I took to get here from the landing pad is, and my head starts to hurt. I see what looks like a gigantic arching bridge and cross it, no luck, but I do find a preacher telling a bunch of people that God wants them to have empathy or whatever. Eventually, I wander my way back to the NAT, take it to the commercial district, and lo and behold, coffee. Right across from the station. I am infuriated. End quote. And this is what I'm saying. Starfield is the poster child of the absolute state of modern gaming today. Something as simple as getting someone a cup of coffee in a Bethesda game before would have had you knowing exactly where to look, and that's it. But the removal of a helpful map system, markers, and general industry standard quest design is not being done because Bethesda didn't have enough time or something. If this journo had a marker on her map that was 20 feet away to get her coffee, the quest would only last a minute tops, but since all of this is removed and there's no guidance whatsoever, a simple 1-minute excursion becomes a 20-minute odyssey. And now take that very same easily fixed problem and multiply it by thousands of players, all doing things at the same time while playing Starfield. Each of them struggling in different ways as they do quests across Starfield's worlds. All of these pointless, easy fixes blatantly ignored to make each of Starfield's unfortunate players waste far more time in-game, which will just increase Bethesda's playtime exponentially and probably lead to a bunch of player subscriptions renewing themselves as well. Sure, Bethesda will celebrate and say, look how many people are playing our game. But in reality, there's likely thousands, if not millions of players each having similar stupid moments like this in-game. And it's all being done to farm you of your time and money, like a cow in a pen. You exist and play these games not for fun's sake in the publisher's eyes, but to drive analytics and meet quotas. It's so dystopian and honestly baffling, but it's the unfortunate dark truth as well. The fact articles like this already exist this soon after launch is not good. Even Alana Pierce had this to say as well.
Like, I love exploration in a Bethesda RPG, like, you know, getting out of the vault in Fallout and being like, I might go here. And you just wander off in a direction and you find some super cool side quest or some outpost that's just doing like crazy stuff, or some settlement that's like nothing you could ever have imagined. I love that so much in Elder Scrolls and in Fallout, wandering and seeing what you'll find. I have not found any of that in Starfield. There is no wander and see what you'll find in terms of like actual planetary exploration. I've gone to several outposts on multiple planets because, you know, you'll see like this used to be a settlement and then you go there. Every single time I have not yet found a single exception. I'm sure they exist as I keep playing the game, but I've not found any, which like makes it off-putting to even do. When, you know, you see like there's a main city and then there's a separate place you can land and another place you can land. They are always just like a couple of buildings, usually some dead scientists and some space pirates who immediately want to shoot me. You can maybe find some weapons and stuff there, but I've not found any of the like stumble across an outpost that has an interesting story thing that is so awesome in Fallout. And yeah, at first that really bothered me because that was part of my expectation, which I think is on me because that's what I want from a Bethesda RPG. That is not here. So like even if you're at one of those, like the many planets I've landed on just to like try and find that kind of thing by going somewhere else and then you walk away from it, generally when you walk away you're not going to find anything else. There might be like another couple of random buildings, but then it just starts to be like environments that are just kind of repeated.
And her experience is very common, and that's really unfortunate. Starfield doesn't have many dungeons built like Skyrim's or Fallout's, because those are finite. They begin and they end. But it's also why Starfield has infinite nothing planets. Because when your revenue stream is based on subscription renewals, what better way to keep people subscribed than to offer them infinite replayability? Who cares if the things they repeat are pointless and offer nothing of value? In this day and age, the quality of content is no longer important to these publishers, just as long as players engage and waste their time. Starfield is such a disgustingly on-brand game that it's honestly peak modern gaming in my opinion. We should not normalize games like this, and it saddens me to see so many defending something that is so evidently inferior to what they had before. Why are people okay with having their time wasted and their money spent funding something that sees them more like farm animals than people? I don't know, man, I really don't. Like, even DrDisRespect is having a bad time playing this.
Is there anybody on my f***ing team? I don't know. I don't know what you want me to f***ing do. Yeah, that really worked. Press R, Doc. What the f*** is R gonna do? R to lock on. Press R to lock on. I thought it's E. What happened? Absolute worst control scheme and control experience of a flight simulator I've ever had experience in my life. This is f***ing flying sucks. How come I don't f***ing heal? Can anybody tell me? Whoa, whoa!
Find me some time to do a remote fix, will ya?
Just too many buttons.
And again, why are the flying controls bad? Because it's a nothing game, made to be consumed like junk food for the masses. Sure, the flying mechanics suck, but if they were good, your flight battle would only last like 30 seconds. But now that you've died 7 times, that battle has made you waste well over 10 minutes of your life instead. Which is bad for you, but great for Xbox's analytics, and that's all that really matters in the end anyway. And it's sad to see when even a fan on Reddit can plainly state how Bethesda designed the game to just waste their time. The artifact collecting alone needs to be done 240 times to max out certain stats. I'm begging you, dear viewer, to not let this sort of nonsense become normalized in gaming going forward, because this is not what gaming should be. This is awful. And to end this video, I want to just look at the Act Man, who's been white knighting for Starfield, which is very bizarre given his content in the past. Recently, I made a video about Nexus mods and how they're banning any mods and users who make anything that removes pronouns from Starfield. The Act Man said this wasn't the case, and since all of this happening, he's now openly stating that he was wrong. Which is good, it shows character to admit when you're wrong. But this is what I'm saying, is that there's no reason to defend or white knight for something so obviously half-baked. And it's goofy to even call this game open world at times when in reality you're just fast traveling constantly to smaller zones. Starfield is a far cry from Bethesda's better years, and an unfortunate prime example that gaming these days is absolutely getting worse if this is being propped up as the gold standard. We must keep the games industry accountable, or we will continue to see this nonsense keep happening. So thank you for watching, let me know what you think, and subscribe for more in the future. Hopefully I can move on from Starfield now, but let me know what else I should cover in the comments below. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.